we are starting, and today's agenda. Last class में we had talked about forensics because our the whole series is about forensics. We started with handwriting. We did some general stuff on handwriting and 65B with Titiksha ma'am. And today we are going to be a little specific, and we will be talking about some specific case studies, जिससे हम ये सीखने की कोशिश करेंगे कि कैसे फोरेंसिक्स को यूज करा जाता है हैंडराइटिंग रिपोर्ट्स में, एंड उनकी मदद से हाउ डू वी अनपैकेज कॉम्प्लेक्स केसेस, एंड ऐसा कौन से केसेस में हुआ है, दैट विल बी प्रेजेंटेड. All of you were made familiar with the trainers in the last class. We have another trainer who has joined us today, which is Ashish sir, जिनको अभी आपने स्क्रीन पे देखा था, who has been a special public prosecutor in Maharashtra, an amazing orator and an amazing lawyer, who's going to be sharing his insights as to the legal aspects. On the legal front, क्या कुछ किया जा सकता है by the lawyers, and कैसे क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशंस होती हैं, क्या चीजों में गलतियां करते हैं, क्या चीज कौन सी गलतियां नहीं करनी चाहिए. एंड तितीक्षा मैम बीइंग अ QD expert, which means question document expert, she will be telling us about she will be presenting on the case studies so that we can learn. So it's going to be good session, good 1 hour that is going to be very valuable, and आप लोग enjoy करोगे. And there's only one request I'll make again, that you will be enjoying the lecture and trainers की मेहनत. I also expect that you reciprocate and give them a good time. That happens when you are interactive and you are on your videos. They can see you nodding, they can see you understanding, and they can see that their efforts are being acknowledged. Okay? Last thing that I have to say is that we are going to start with our course very soon, which is on 3rd June, which is just a week or 10 days from now. We'll start with the course on handwriting reports. This is going to be a full-fledged 10 things we have on the agenda. You'll see the syllabus on the website. I'll share the link in the chat box. देखते रहना उसे भी. And I would expect all of the participants in the course very soon. ठीक है. And उसके बाद एक कोर्स और आने वाला है जिसकी डिटेल्स भी मैं आप लोगों को दे चुका हूँ, एंड वो है मेडिकल फॉरेंसिक्स के बारे में, मेडिकल रिपोर्ट्स के बारे में, राइट. सो आई विल गिव इट ओवर टू द ट्रेनर्स. Riva ma'am, how are we going to start? Are we starting with Ashish sir first?
Do we need to do another introduction? I don't know if we have a few new faces, so do we need to introduce the company, Raghav? We can
I think
do that.
We had done it in the first.
We have done it in the first one, so we can go straight to the first slide. Maybe Titiksha, maybe you can just start with the first slide and then Ashish sir can take over. Ashish sir continues to be engaged as Special PP for Enforcement Directorate in Maharashtra and has 25 years of experience that he can share with us. So it will be an exciting class today.
Yes. Titiksha ma'am, आपको मैंने hosting rights दे दी.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you very much for having me here. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, audible.
Great. Okay, so just for those of you who are probably new, I am a forensic expert, and I have 15 years of experience in this field. I'm a certified document and fingerprint expert. I've worked on thousands of cases in this field of forensics. And I have also been expert witness in the court, which means I have been in front of the court a number of cases for cross-examinations. And yeah, so I hope to share my expertise and my knowledge to you as well. Okay, so beginning with the course. Right. Okay. So just little introduction about what question document is. जो last time भी हमने किया था, but I'll just give you a recap of question document is. Question documents, when we say question documents, they are basically documents whose authenticity is in dispute. Basically, they could be forged documents, or they could be documents that have been probably altered or edited okay, forged to make it appear like genuine documents, or they might even have some parts deliberately obliterated to conceal some information. All right, so such documents are called as question documents. And as question document expert, our role is to basically, attempt to confirm who is the creator of these kind of documents, what is the time frame these documents were created in, and also identify the materials that were used in preparation of these fraudulent documents or question documents, and and at the same time uncover any modifications made to the original text or any other matter in the document. Okay, ultimately giving an opinion about the genuineness or the authenticity or even the source of the document. So question documents may, usually हम handwriting analysis, signature analysis करते हैं, कोई alterations होता है document में, तो even that we examine. All right, we also come across torn documents or burned documents which we have to reconstruct, okay, using various scientific methods. We also have to examine, written materials, writing materials like pen, pencil, or sketch pens, or any other type of writing material, any type of surface that that document is made on, like maybe paper, stone, carvings on the stone, okay, carvings on the wall, on the cloth, so these type of examination on these types of cases we come across, and we have to work accordingly in a scientific manner. All right, we also do examination of input and output devices like computers, also typewriters. We have to examine the materials that are used in the typewriters to basically compare it with the output, so as to prove that this output belongs to this particular typewriter, for example. All right, so such kind of cases, or such kind of examinations, as a QD expert, we often conduct. Okay.
Do I pitch in here?
Yes, sir. 1 minute. I'll just give you my slide. Next, yes. So next slide is we are basically want to talk about the types of document crimes. All right. I think, sir, now you can maybe give some inputs. The type of crime that usually document related crimes usually we come across are in the criminal matter as well as in the civil matters, like mentioned over here, forgeries, counterfeits, currencies, identity thefts, frauds, suicides, homicides, okay, kidnapping, extortions, stalking, contested wills, medical malpractice, documents related to medical malpractice. So all these are the types of document crimes we often come across. So you can pitch in over here, maybe gives your valuable input regarding the law related to these crimes.
Thank you so much, Titiksha. I see a lot of familiar faces and familiar names. I also see some new faces and new names. In any case, basically, what would my role be in this entire module? What will I be talking about? So if you just have a look at this slide again carefully, on your left-hand side, you have a list. It says forgeries, counterfeiting, identity theft, fraud, suicide, homicide, bank robberies. Bank robberies can be any kind of robberies. So this is just an illustrative example. Bank robberies, kidnapping, extortion, and stalking. And I'm going to pause here. If you ask me to divide these number of offenses or issues that have been set out on this page, I will divide them into two parts. One is where I have paused. So forgery se lekar stalking tak. Now, Anybody who has have had an occasion to go through IPC, you will realize that all of these are IPC offenses. Forgeries, counterfeiting, identity theft, fraud, suicide, homicide, bank robberies or any kind of robberies, kidnapping, extortion and stalking. Now, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of which section is what and all of that. We can discuss it later. And perhaps it might not be relevant also to go into the details of IPC. We are not having an IPC module here. But the point that I'm trying to make is that all these are offenses under the criminal law. Now, let us look at the other names here. Contested wills, correct? This is civil law. Contested contracts, this is civil law. Medical malpractice is an overlap. Medical malpractice can go into consumer, it can go into torts, it can also go into criminal law. So there is an overlap here. And title deed lawsuits is a purely civil domain. Now, where do we connect question documents with all of this? Everything that you have, you see on this page may have an element of question documents. Forgeries, obviously. Counterfeiting, obvious. Identity theft, extremely, it's very clear, commonsensical. Fraud, if it is based on an aspect of forgery, then it certainly becomes a crime where question document is involved. Suicide, mein kya hota hai? Suicide mein normally you have a suicide note. Then comes the forensic analysis of that suicide note. Who was the author of the note? When was the note prepared? Is there a nexus between whatever is written on that note and the ultimate thing that has happened, that is the death of the person? Is the person who has written the note been actually threatened or provoked or instigated to commit suicide? Okay, so those things are relevant insofar as suicide is concerned. Homicide, it could be n number of things which could be a question document. It could be a chit which is found on the dead body. It could be a paper which is lying there at the scene of the crime, which has something in it, written in it, which might be relevant. Robberies, yes, again, robberies in the same genre or the same class of offenses. So I don't need to separately deal with them. Kidnapping also could involve some kind of electronic documents, an email or a WhatsApp or something like that, or even a physical note, etc. Extortion also involves the same. Stalking could also involve. So basically, these offenses have a central pivot or a central point on which all these offenses can turn, or the fate of whether the prosecution would succeed or fail would depend a lot on how the question documents are looked at, how they are analyzed, what is the report given, and what is the credibility of the report in the court. Now, when you look at the other part, so now before I conclude with the criminal part, I must also tell you very emphatically that there are different yardsticks of proof which is required in a court of law to prove a question document in a civil case as compared to in a criminal case. Now, this is extremely important for you, for all of these students who are trying to learn about question documents. The parameters of proof, the degree of proof, and we will come to that when we have this module later, when we go into it in detail, are going to be different. So just to give you a glimpse, in criminal law, it has to be any document has to be proved, or any fact in issue has to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Whereas on the civil aspect of it, it deals with the preponderance of probabilities. More of that later. But if you now look at contested wills, contested contracts, these are documents. So I don't need to go deeper than that. Those documents can be question documents. Medical malpractice would consist of documents which are medical documents. It could be discharge reports. It could be advice given on paper by doctors. It could be also documents that are used by doctors. So you might require your question documents there. Title deeds are again the basis for possession or ownership of a property, and lawsuits are entirely based on title deeds. So if title deeds are defective, as in forged or fabricated or bogus, then obviously your question documents are going to come into it. Now, before I hand over to Titiksha again, and she will, delve deep into what is how does a scientist of a person who analyzes handwriting or who analyzes the question document, how does he go about it? before I do that, I will leave you with two things. One is that what is the connection of question documents to court? Because that connection is something which is my domain. I am not a forensic expert. So I would be very interested in knowing how the whole process of arriving at an opinion is, but that is not my domain. My domain is what happens after the opinion is prepared. After the opinion is prepared, depending on whether it's a criminal case or whether it's a civil case, its fate would be dependent on largely this fact, whether it's a civil case or a criminal case. If it's a civil case, then as I said, that the proof would be of preponderance of probability. The witness would go into the witness box either in an arbitration or in a courtroom. If it's an arbitration, then it will go before an arbitrator. If it's in a courtroom, it will go before the court. There would be examination and cross-examination. Now that is a common overlap between criminal and civil law. So that part of it stays the same. In criminal law, what is different? What is different is that not every expert can opine in a criminal law. So CrPC, which is the backbone of the procedural aspect of criminal law, is going to be the Bible for us to look at and to find out provisions which tell us which are those scientists or which are those government examiner of question documents, to put it in a very technical term, who are entitled to come to court and give evidence and to give and to prove the opinion that they have given. Now, invariably, this happens in a police case, which starts from an FIR and which ends with a charge sheet. So these opinions form part of the charge sheet. How these opinions are put in the charge sheet, how they are proved in the court, who proves this opinion, what are the do's and don'ts of good cross-examination and bad cross-examination. This is all that we'll probably unravel more as we go into the course. So with that, I can hand over to Titiksha for continuing with her talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for the valuable information. Okay, so before we move ahead, I would like to just give you information about what type of documents as an expert we usually deal with. So documents like they could be of different types, like financial documents or any administrative documents like marriage certificates, birth certificates, and lottery tickets, any utility bills, licenses, purchase licenses. So all these are type of documents that we often have to deal with, okay, in our course of examination. Apart from that, we also have to deal with educational documents like mark sheets, degrees, merit certificates, even official letters, resignation letters, recommendation letters, suicide notes, okay, any type of sale document, purchase documents, any other confidential documents. So these are different types of documents that we come across in our in our course of examination, okay. And there are different types, different ways in which each of these documents are examined depending upon its requirement. So largely, if I say that question documents divided largely into like two parts. One is the question document examination, and one is the examination of the writings or the markings on the document, okay. So today I would like to share a couple of case studies that in some interesting case studies, and give you insight or a glimpse on what exactly happens as an expert, what exactly we examine and look for in these such kind of cases. So my first case study is basically this is a bank check. Okay, and so this check was received by me for examination. all right, wherein the amount, this is certain amount, was deducted from the account, and later on it was understood that the check was fraudulently presented in the bank, and therefore it came for examination. And when it came for examination, the requirement was for a signature comparison. Okay, so we also got, apart from this document, this particular check, which is an alleged forged check. Okay, we also received some admitted samples, basically samples which are admitted to be original. So even those are then compared. Those we compared with the disputed signature. And that's when I, in fact, found out that this is actually not a signature comparison case at all. It is because of the fact that the signature that you see is actually a printed signature on the check. Okay. So the subject, or the line of action for this examination completely changed from handwriting or a signature comparison to a question document examination. Okay, so if you can see this signature over here, okay, I'll show you. I have blown up images also. If you can see the signature over here, it appears very dark. Okay, and when we see closely, we can see that it is in fact printed, and then it has been overwritten by a pen, by a blue ball pen, probably. Okay, now how did we find out that this signature was printed on the check? Is because when we conducted a magnified examination of the document, okay, we found that there were some dots that you can also see on the screen over here. There's some dots were there. All right, now these dots are typically found only on printed documents. Okay, documents that are printed using maybe a inkjet printer. All right. And therefore, we came to this conclusion that definitely this signature cannot be handmade. All right, it is definitely printed on the check. All right, then we viewed this particular signature under various light sources like the ultraviolet light source and the IR infrared light source, and to give a clear picture as to what are we looking at. So if you see in the middle picture, which is a UV enhanced image, so you can clearly make out the differences with of the ball pen and the printed material. All right, and the last image is the image of the infrared light source, which we used on that particular signature. And we were able to conclusively prove that this is in fact a signed document that is printed on the check. All right, the signature has been printed on the check. All right, so apart from giving an opinion regarding the authenticity of the check, all right, we also recommended that maybe internal inquiry could be a possibility, because something like this is very unusual to find. So there is a possibility that somebody who is somebody from within the bank is probably into this for for their own personal gains. All right, so we were also able to give a recommendation like that, and accordingly steps were taken by the banks. Okay, then there is a similar case, unfortunately, in the same bank. I'm sure by the logo you can kind of make out what the bank is, but still, so this was the second case study from the same bank, but a different branch. In this case, two checks were given to us because these were two checks and with the same check number, and they were submitted for encashment on different dates, okay, just 3 days apart. All right. So the one that is below over here is the admitted exhibit, which was provided to us, meaning that this signatures on the document is an original signature, admitted signature. All right. And the disputed was the one where the banks kind of had, were probably doubtful regarding the authenticity of that check. And same, we performed examination under ultraviolet and infrared light source, and we were again able to prove that yes, in fact, the signatures were again printed on the document. All right. So again, if you can see here, the disputed document, disputed exhibit, you can see marked as D1, D2. Okay, so the first image, you can see there are tiny droplets, there are like spines coming out. All right, same for here. As compared to the admitted signature, where no such tiny, ink droplets can be observed, which is a very typical observation for a ball pen when observed under a magnifying, high power magnifier. Okay. Another case study was that of a counterfeit check, okay, which again were sent to us, and they were also having same check numbers, and therefore that raised a suspicion regarding their authenticity. And so for comparison, we were given one admitted sample of the check, which is an accepted as a admitted sample, and one was the document that the bank thought that is a fraudulent one. All right. So when same, just like the other two case studies, we used UV light and infrared light sources for this examination as well. And we were able to conclude, we were able to observe quite a few features which were not matching with the admitted sample. All right. So here, when here the first image, you see that there are watermarks that are observed in the admitted document, which are not clearly observed in the questioned exhibit. Okay. Very clearly, if you see, the central watermark of the bank is observed. All right. In the second image, you will see that there is micro lettering is observed in the admitted, which is not observed in the questioned exhibit. All right. So if you see a little bit closer, you will see that the lines that are there, these lines on the check, are actually the lines that are made of the wordings Bank of India. All right. And this we were able to identify using a high power magnifier. All right. I will also tell you what type of instruments we use for conducting these kind of examinations at a later point. Then we also were able to prove that the font that you can see in both is not matching, that there is a difference, okay, in the length and as well as in the width of the font size. And lastly, you see the void section that is there on the checks. When we saw it under a high power magnifier, we were able to see the letters void, VOID, written in the admitted, whereas in the questioned exhibit, they were not visible. All right. You can also see the background, background of the admitted exhibits. They also have watermarkings of the Bank of India written on them. All right. So these are some features some security features that we were able to examine under high power magnifiers and other instruments, and we were able to conclusively come to a conclusion that this in fact is a is a fraudulently prepared check. All right. Now, so we often observe that this kind of examination, or when we examine these kind of cases, we tend to somewhere feel that maybe somebody from within is also involved, all right, for their beneficial gains, whatever they may be. All right. So accordingly, we in this case also we provided an opinion, a recommendation to have an internal inquiry. All right. And and based on our opinion, based on my opinion, the bank was able to conduct certain inquiries, and definitely the culprits were apprehended, and the steps were taken accordingly. Okay, so the instruments that we often use in this kind of examination are high power magnifiers. Okay, so these are magnifiers that can go up to like more than 400x or something. All right, so that we can see the micro lettering, you can see the the minute watermarkings that are there. Then we also use an instrument called video spectral comparator, okay, which is basically an instrument that is that has various type of light sources like the ultraviolet and the infrared light source, and that helps us in identifying if there are any if there are any alterations done to that particular document. Okay, then we also sometimes we have cases where we have to do we have to examine the ink of the writings. All right, but that is a little destructive method. We use methods like thin layer chromatography to identify or to conclude whether this writing of this particular document and the writing from this particular document come from the same writing instrument or not. But that is under extreme or under certain cases where that is a requirement, because these kind of this kind of examinations are destructive, wherein your original document can be destroyed. So therefore, it is usually done by government experts of the question document examination, okay, with the permission of the court, of course. All right. And so, yeah. And so, yeah, so hopefully, you had you had a little understanding of how QD works, how question documents works, and what kind of examination we what kind of methods and techniques we conduct over there. And so hopefully, I will see you in our, workshop, which is the deconstructing the forensic document analysis. And what we will be doing in this course is mainly giving an introduction of what is QD and a little bit of the organizational structure of the FSLs and the GQDs, and the type of documents, type of frauds, all right, nature and types of forgeries that we often deal with, and scientific explanation of how these are examined, okay, various types of instruments and various methodologies that are used for different types of examinations. Okay, definitely handwriting and signature fraud examination, its various types, what are the characteristics that we examine in this kind of analysis. Okay, and also understanding about the various types of writing instruments, various types of surfaces that we that can be used for writing. all right, different types of forgeries now with the coming trend of, electronic documentation, all right. We are all typing on our iPads, or, we have a stylus with which we make notes on our iPads, or we make notes on our, or we write, or we even sign on our documents, all right, using a stylus pen. All right, so examination of those kind of computer or electronic devices, and how how comparison can be done with that. And of course, report writing, its admissibility and related laws in the field of question document examination. So, and ultimately our learning outcome is uh, the first one will be the application of the best and the scientific practices that we use in forensic analysis for QD cases, all right. And our basic understanding of the scientific principles and the kind of evidences and the opinions that we derive to, all right. And of course, you will also get a strong foundation in, in appreciating of the evidences and the ability to understand the forensics report, at the trial, all right, as advocates. Okay, so thank you very much. And if we have some questions, I think we can take it ahead from here.
So just to add on a little bit to what the Diksha said, there's this preconceived notion that documents are just pieces of paper and now digital or handwritten or typed, and we're considering those as question documents. Cases that I've been asked to opine on are situations where it is a communication between two people and there are two versions to that communication. For example, an art dealer who is dealing with art and has been given a number of paintings to sell for a particular artist and then steals those paintings. In this particular situation, what had happened was there'd been an exchange of paintings and no financial exchange had taken place. So something like that, where there is an insertion on a document, spacing of lines, looking at the alignment of the document, these are all part of document analysis. We've limited our discussion in the webinar to two limited areas, but the possibilities are, another situation that comes to mind straight away is aging of inks. For example, the authenticity of an old contract or an old will, when it was prepared at that time, were there inks available with the ingredients and the recipes that we have today? So again, in this particular situation, the ink that was used to sign the document was not relevant to that time. They did not have all the particular components of that ink available at that time frame. Similarly, with artists and artworks, authenticating artworks, all of this comes under the gamut of document examination. So I think that you're going to be exposed to a huge array of different types of evidence, and learn to just understand and appreciate the scientific angle of analysis. Of course, it is a subjective science, and so there will always be a chance for a very strong defense with a good expert. But at least you will understand points of contention, points of validity in a particular report, and be able to appreciate the report in a courtroom better. So with that, I think our webinars are a wrap. Of course, we're happy to answer whatever questions Raghav or any of you may have.
Right, ma'am. Thank you so much. And your questions are most welcome in the chat box. We're looking at it. Please try to skim through हमने क्या-क्या पढ़ा अभी, and see if you have any questions you want to ask. It may be related to forensics, may be related to law, it may be related to the course itself, enrollment and everything. But I would reiterate जो रीवा मैम ने बोला, which is very important, कि so many avenues that now we come to know, there are points that we know that we can contend upon. Just imagine you're in a court and आपको कोई ऐसा document दिखता है जिसमें आप बताते हैं सर ये तो ink है ही नहीं, या बॉल पेन है, या प्रिंटेड है, या कैसे है, या इसके पीछे वाटर मार्क्स हैं या नहीं. So these things, not everybody knows. I would say this is arcane right now. This is what do we say, मतलब जिसे बोलते हैं esoteric, which is very 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 narrow, very few people who know कि ये चीजें भी हो सकती हैं, this is a possibility, they don't even, उसके अंदर तक knowledge होना तो बहुत बड़ी बात है, they don't even know the possibility of that. So I'm grateful that we have Team Facts with us, and they are collaborating with us on such an important course and a series of courses. जिसमें अभी medical, अभी handwriting होने वाला है, then medical reports होने वाला है, and all those things. So I would say everybody please invest in the course, in a bright future, in better litigation, and that will help us all. Any questions? Anybody, please use your mic or use the chat. We are here for the next 5-10 minutes. And if you don't have a question, please use the link that I'm sending in the chat again and visit the page and enroll. In case you have any problems, in case you need any information, in case you want to talk about any other course, this is my number. You can save it and you can call me up. If you want to join our WhatsApp groups, जहाँ पे रोज judgments and articles और जो भी important चीजें होती हैं law courses, we keep pushing. That also you can do. Ma'am, just out of curiosity, I looked at the images that you were showing. तो उसमें जो बीच वाली image थी, उस पे आपने बोला कि UV rays use होती हैं, and then we get to see that ball point pen अलग and print अलग. तो on the science front ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है कि UV में ही हमें वो दिखाई देता है?
Well, so UV light, basically ultraviolet light, have so our ink, basically the pens that we use, or anything that involves ink, like printer की जो inks होती है, okay, या तो हमारी pens में जो inks होती है, उनका एक certain chemicals use होते हैं. So जो basically enhance होते हैं, मतलब when there is a certain wavelength of UV bombarded on them, UV light bombarded on them, they will kind of enhance, all right, under UV light. So you can easily distinguish between different types of pens or different types of writing instrument or printed materials,
Okay.
because of the difference in the composition of the inks.
Okay, so we use short waves in UV, or we do the long waves.
Oh, it depends. It depends. You can have short waves, long waves.
Okay.
So I think for anyone who's done basic physics, if you remember your principles of absorption, reflection, transmission, it's essentially that. It's the radiation that's being absorbed differentially across the surface, the dye, the different things. So that's what you're able to differentiate.
And same thing will go for the infrared light also, which is why if you observe, the next image was a little black and white, because that was introduced to the infrared light, where the ink pen, the pen का जो marking था, वो it had completely gone invisible. All right. So yeah, so like ma'am said, it is basic physics, really.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you everybody for sharing your time today. And next up, we meet on 3rd June when we start with the course. And I've already received 5 or 6 messages from you all. I hope कि 25, 26, 27, 28, 50 और आ जाए. And we'll have a good class. Right? Thank you so much. And keep joining us. We keep doing all these webinars, अलग-अलग subjects पे. Stay apart. Stay tuned with our channels जहाँ पे भी आप active हैं, LinkedIn, Twitter, WhatsApp, Telegram वगैरह वगैरह. You can join us. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
Titiksha
you.
ma'am. Thank you, Reva ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening.
And I think Ashish sir has already left.
Yes, he had another appointment, so he stepped out.
Okay, we are recording. Thank you, Ashish sir. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.